Welcome back to A Story to Tell from the campus of Dixie State University. Today we're talking with Mr Noriega. How do I do on that name?
You did fantastic, Lane. Thanks for pronouncing it
Well, I
correctly.
practiced it for 2 hours this morning before I came here.
Well, you have to. That's why they call me Mr. Noriega, is because it's so hard to pronounce.
Wasn't there a movie once about Mr. Tibbs or something?
Well, there was a movie, actually, The Egyptian, and the main character was Sinaway in there, but it was a 1950s film and long forgotten, so it's off of everybody's tongue these days.
So you're a movie character.
Well, I suppose so. It came from a novel, so I'd say I'm a novel character.
Character of a novel. Well, tell me a little about yourself. Who you are, where you've been, what do you do?
Well, I'm a teacher. That's primarily and foremost exactly what I am, as a teacher. I love education, I love teaching, I love seeing that spark in children's eyes when I communicate learning to them, the real learning, the desire to learn, the marvel of learning. I've been teaching now I've had my teaching license for the past 7 years, but I've been teaching long before then, and coaching in private schools and this kind of thing.
Whereabouts?
That's the funny thing, is I've been researching the western part of the country here, the southwest part of the country. I've been traveling to places like Nevada, California, Arizona, and here in
Nevada,
Utah.
and California, two foreign countries.
Exactly. But I wanted to get to the heart of what's happening in education. So that was the whole point, is I told my wife, you know, we need to find out, I told her about 6, 7 years ago, we need to find out what's happening with education right now, because something's happening and we need to get to the bottom of things. So that's what I've been doing, is traveling, teaching in over a dozen school districts all around the country.
What grade level do you teach?
That's the thing. I've been teaching from 6th grade all the way to 12th grade, and currently I'm teaching adults right now in a Southwest high school here in town.
Forgot to turn my phone off. Anyway, well, tell me a little bit about your teaching career. What do you enjoy most about it?
Well, like I said, Lane, I enjoy learning for learning's sake. We've gotten so far away from that today. We've gotten into learning for the test's sake. But I enjoy when a child discovers for themselves a new concept, and I facilitate that learning. I come in and I teach that child, but rather I lead them to that discovery. And I love to see when they understand what learning truly is, which it's a natural human desire, a human instinct to find out the unknown. That's what I love seeing most of all in my career, and what's been stripped away from the education system.
Before we really get into that, tell me a little bit about your family.
Well,
who you are, where you came from, your parents, your siblings, your children, your wife.
My family, I have to say, Lane, and I say this exclusively, is the best family in the whole world. My wife is so supportive. I don't think that there's a more supportive wife that could say, yes, let's go traveling all over the states and have an unstable career because of the research that you're doing. I have 4 lovely children and 1 on the way. I have 2 girls and 2 boys. My oldest is 12 years old, and he's in 8th grade right now. I love being with them. I come from a divergent background. I'm actually half Haitian and half Spanish. My father's from Haiti, so I was able to grow up in that kind of environment as well. My parents separated when I was very young, but I've had the opportunity to be a world traveler, a Renaissance man, so to speak. I've been able to be all over the United States as well as all over the world. I've traveled to Europe, and I've been in Switzerland, Sweden, and all over the whole world, just being able to open my eyes in South America. I've even went on a mission in South America for the church for 2 years, and I've been able to expand my horizons, so to speak. Family life is fantastic. I think I've learned great values from my mother, and that's what's kept me afloat, is bringing these values with me, because these are the kind of things that are right now being pushed out of education, is values and a system where rejects any part of the Creator or any part of the love for country or for God. Those things are being pushed out. But I think it's those values that have been instilled with me since I was growing up that have given me the courage to fight onward, to fight this battle.
How did you meet your wife?
Oh, lovely story. We, as youth, we loved to dance, and you know, I can't dance right now, but I went to a dance club and I saw her over there, and she was the most amazing rabbit in the whole world, a bunny hopping over there, and I just had to meet her.
Where was this?
This was in Salt Lake City about over 18 years ago. And it was, you know, love at first sight, I call it, because I saw her, and from that moment, a lot of people don't believe in this love at first sight, but I do. I've had first-hand experience, and ever since I saw her standing there, like the Beatles say, I've been in love ever since.
How long did it take you to marry her?
Well, it took me about a year and a half. You know, we dated, we courted, we went out, and finally I convinced her to take the deep plunge and to take the risk. I certainly married upward. It's like, and what about Bob? You know, she's a Goodyear blimp, and I'm just dangling on the ropes. So I had to convince her a little bit.
Well, I met my wife at a dance, and 3 weeks later we were married. What took you so long?
Well, you know, it took a little convincing, and it took a little bit of charm. But like I said, I married up. You might
all
have
married up. Anybody that thinks they didn't marry up is crazy.
Well, that may be Lane, but you know, I truly believe that I have just such a wonderful princess that it took everything I had to be able to finally solidify the deal, and I did, and I thank the Lord for it, because I think that He was right there giving me the courage and the help to do so. And so, just like everything else in my life, I really appreciate the hand of providence, because it was a great part of my life at that stage in my life, and in this stage of my life as well.
Well, maybe the thing that took you so long is you married way, way, way up.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, people marry up, but I shot for beyond the stars.
Well, good for you. Tell me about Common Core.
Well, that's what we're deeply involved with right now, Common Core. And it's a great mystery to most of us Americans. Here in Utah, we're in a little bubble, but even it's surprising, in the whole United States, we seem to be in a bubble, because Common Core is a national system. However, when I talk to parents, when I talk to educators, when I travel around the United States, most people don't have any idea what Common Core even is.
What is it?
It is a national education system that bypassed Congress. In other words, it's the first education system, first law ever to be put through in America, bypassing Congress.
How did they do that?
Well, very sneakily. What they did was they utilized the No Child Left Behind law and the implosion that was having. The collapse of No Child Left Behind back in 2010, 2011 caused the school districts to panic. The government took advantage of that and created, well, they had long before created this Common Core curriculum and this Common Core system, but they took advantage and told the states something radical. Arne Duncan came out and basically told the states, you know what, you don't have to keep the law. All you have to do is sign some waivers that we've prepared for you, as long as you're signing your rights away and giving those rights to us. And if you do that, we'll continue funding you, funding all the states that go along with us.
This was the carrot on the stick?
Exactly, the dangling carrot. You won't lose your funding. Now remember, back then there were a couple of states that were saying we're going to get out of No Child Left Behind. Those states were brought back in with the dangling carrot, and they were told, just sign these waivers and we'll take care of you, and that's what they did.
Was Utah one of those?
Utah was one of those, and that's what shocked me. Right now, Utah's in year 1 of Common Core, and the rest of the states, a lot of the states are into year 3. But it shocked me because we didn't need the money. Our school system wasn't failing in Utah like it was in California. In California, we had over 90% of schools in program improvement. Here in Utah, we were doing just fine. And yet, somehow, we sold our rights away to Common Core and basically said, we are not going to have a part of education. We're going to accept everything the national government tells us that we should educate our children with. It's gotten so radical, Lane, that they've imposed the end of school year tests, and they've even told us, our teachers, we can't get into those tests. We can't look at those tests. Parents can't look at those tests.
How can they prevent the parents from looking at them?
Well, that's what shocks me. I don't have any idea how anybody is going along with this. The only thing I can say is that nobody knows about it. Because when I tell parents you can't go into your school district and see the test that your child is taking, they get shocked and they look at me strangely. And yet, yesterday, my own child, when I sent him to take the test, I went over there, and as I was escorting him to what seemed a prison-like structure with shielded with glass,
This was a school?
This was here at the campus, because I homeschool my child. But as I was escorting him into that room, all of a sudden I got approached quickly. Whoa, you can't come in here. You can't come in here. This is my child. You can't come in here. And I had to leave my child. The door was closed, and I had to stay behind where I was not able to see the computers at all, because I, as a parent, am not allowed to see the test. And as a teacher, which should shock the viewer more, I'm not allowed to see that test. In fact, in Utah, there are only 15 people approved here in the state of Utah to see that test.
Other than the teachers? Can the teachers see the test?
The teachers cannot see the test. In fact,
Well, who grades the test?
the test is graded by the government. It's sent directly to Washington. You hit submit. My child explained the whole process. You hit submit, and once that process is sent, that goes directly to Washington, and they take care of the test. Now, mind you, this test was not created by an education system. This test was created by a behavior modification company. Ask yourself this question: why would a behavior modification company create the end-of-year examinations that our children are having in the schools? And yet this kind of information is kept secret from the parents. Right now what we have is a national education system gone awry. This is exactly what the Founding Fathers were preventing when they kept education out of the Constitution and out of the federal government's hands, because it was their intention, it was their intent to keep education at a local level so that parents and educators could decide, you and I could decide, Lane, what's best for our children. But this is exactly what's been stolen by the federal government. The federal government has come in and has taken education away from the hands of the parents and the local educators and authorities.
Do they teach this throughout the year? Do they teach for the test, or how do they prepare students to take this so-called test?
Well, in my book, I explain everything about the test. We now teach for the test. We have gone away from teaching learning and have substituted that with a doppelganger, so to speak, the test. We teach for the test, we explain everything for the test, but the Common Core is exactly that. It is a curriculum fed through the national government. They've given us all approved textbooks, and they have to be Common Core approved textbooks, otherwise we can't use those textbooks.
Is this for every subject?
This is for every, well, not for the elective subjects, not yet at least, but for the core subjects.
And what are the core subjects?
We have math, science, history, and so forth. And so those are the subjects that right now are being tested, language arts, and those are the subjects that the government has their complete control over. Not only their foot in the door, but sort of say they've broken into the door. They've broken into the house of education.
When did this start?
This started back actually with No Child Left Behind. And I explain that in my book, If It's Broken, Don't Fix It. In No Child Left Behind.
Who started for No Child Left Behind?
Well, No Child Left Behind, we all know, was George Bush started No Child Left Behind. But George Bush didn't write the law. He was convinced, like you and I, of the subject. Hey, you know, you have a system here that's not going to leave any child behind. Even the name is pretty. And what we expect out of you, teachers, is to get your students 10% smarter every year. Your fifth grade classes have to be 10% smarter than last year's fifth grade classes. And that makes perfect sense to everybody, except by the time you get to years 7 and 8, which is when we start seeing the fiascos and the cheating. By year 7 and 8, that we're talking about 70% smarter kids than the beginning kids. That's basically impossible. By year 10, we were expecting kids to be 100% smarter than those original kids. You can't possibly ask a teacher to say, hey, those scores that your original fifth graders have, we want those scores to be 100% better by 10 years later, by the year 2014.
What does 100% better mean? I thought 100% was as good as you could do.
Well, let's say your
That's
kids.
twice as good as
Let's say your kids' overall average had 42 percentile went into the curve, 42%. By the year 2014, They wanted that 42 to be 84.
Okay.
In other words, to double the capacity of what you could teach those children, which children can learn infinitely. But when you put that kind of an equation into a No Child Left Behind, we realize that that system is meant to collapse. And that's exactly why I explain in my book, is that this operation to take over the education system and actually the national government was set up all the way back from No Child Left Behind. It was a system that was meant to implode in on itself, and by the time that 2011 rolled around and these states were seceding out of No Child Left Behind, the government already had in place a safety net. In other words, a plan that was preconceived previously, and Arnie Duncan came in and simply said something like this, and I'm ad-libbing, we know that it was going to implode in on itself. You guys now have waivers to break the law. You can still keep your funding, but you have to give, in other words, secede all your rights away of education to us, the federal government. We are now taking control of education from your hands. You keep the money, but we are now taking control. An ingenious system.
Who is Duncan? Tell me who he is.
Duncan is the Secretary of Education in the United States, and so he was appointed by Obama. He is the one that we go to for any education purposes, any educational laws, but he is the one that is the voice piece of Barack Obama in his administration.
How are people in Utah reacting to this?
The people that know in Utah are outraged, are shocked. But most people in Utah, most people in the state, I repeat this again, in the nation, have no idea what's going on. That's why I believe information is the most important part. If you are unaware of what's happening, there's nothing you can do. If you are unaware that it is unconstitutional to have a federal system running education, then education is what will help you. That's what my job is. That's why I wrote this book, is for people to go and read and be able to become aware and say, okay, the education system has been overrun illegally by the federal government. That's unconstitutional. How did they do that? How did they bypass Congress altogether? How does that link to what the government is doing now, completely bypassing Congress in every way? This is why I've taken a couple years off of my career and have been promoting what I'm doing now, speaking to parents and speaking to educators about what the Common Core is.
Tell me about your book.
My book is If It's Broken, Don't Fix It. It's an inside look at education. And I spent 2 years writing this book, 7 years researching this book. And this book tells us everything that we need to know today about education and what we can do to stop what's happening in the government today. Today, the government thinks that they can overreach, that they can take our rights away from us at any given time. If they feel they need to take our guns away, they can do that. If they feel that they can take away our privileges to educate our children, they're doing that. If they feel that they can take away our lands, they're doing that. All because of Common Core. You see, the Common Core was the first national law to bypass Congress completely.
Well, how can they do that?
What they did was they set out this plan. They set out a plan where once No Child Left Behind became devastated and nobody